humans can survive wounds that should erase their minds. I learned this 312 cycles ago. At the time, I believed the statement was impossible. Now I know it was incomplete. My name is Vare Cal, Senior Observer of the Galactic Empire. I studied dangerous species. I measured predators. I documented civilizations that could crack planets. Nothing prepared me for one human named Elias Vane. The Empire called him a monster. I called him an anomaly. Both descriptions were wrong. The first time I saw him, he was standing inside a prison cell. No restraints. No armor. No weapons. Just a thin human male wearing a gray uniform covered in dried blood. 3 Imperial guards stood outside his cell. Each guard carried a pulse rifle. Each rifle could melt a 6-meter steel door. Elias looked at them. Then he smiled. I immediately understood the reason. He was afraid. That was my first mistake. Humans always smiled when they were afraid. At least, that was our conclusion. We had captured Elias on the dead moon of Kharon-9. Our forces had destroyed the human colony there. The colony had resisted for 17 minutes. 17. That was considered meaningless. Then Elias appeared. He had been found walking through the ruins, barefoot, bleeding, carrying the broken helmet of an Imperial soldier. He had no surviving squad, no transport, no functioning weapon. Yet 43 Imperial soldiers refused to approach him. I found that irrational. A single unarmed creature should trigger no defensive response. So I ordered the guards to enter. They did not move. I asked why. The captain answered with one sentence. Because the last group that tried disappeared. I reviewed the footage. There were 6 soldiers. They entered the ruins. Elias was sitting beside a burning transport. He looked at them. One soldier raised his rifle. The footage ended. Not because of interference. Because every camera nearby had been physically destroyed. That was impossible. I replayed it 11 times. Then I ordered Elias transferred to the Imperial flagship. The Emperor wanted to see him. Not kill him. See him. That frightened me more. The Emperor had never personally inspected a captured species. He considered most creatures beneath direct attention. But Elias had become something else. A question. And the Empire hated unanswered questions. When Elias arrived aboard the flagship, every corridor became silent. Soldiers watched him. Engineers stopped working. Officers whispered. He walked between them without chains. That confused me. I assumed the guards were trying to intimidate him. Again, I was wrong. They were afraid he might notice them. We placed him inside the interrogation chamber. 3 telepaths entered first. Our telepaths could rip memories from the strongest military commanders. They could erase pain. They could implant commands. They could make a living creature forget its own name. The first telepath touched Elias's forehead. She screamed. Blood came from her eyes. She collapsed. The second refused to continue. The third tried anyway. For 4 seconds, nothing happened. Then every light in the chamber exploded. Elias remained seated. Calm. I watched the medical report. The telepath had suffered catastrophic neural feedback. Her final recorded thought was impossible. She believed Elias's mind was empty. Not damaged. Not shielded. Empty. There was no fear. No anger. No memory pattern that resembled ours. Just darkness. I should have been fascinated. Instead, I became uneasy. We questioned Elias manually. The commander asked him why he had survived Kharon-9. Elias stared at him. I didn't. The room became silent. The commander repeated the question. Elias pointed toward the observation glass. You're talking to what survived. I did not understand. Neither did anyone else. But something inside me changed. For the first time, I wondered if we had captured the wrong thing. Perhaps Elias was not the human. Perhaps the human was whatever had been left behind. The Empire decided to test him. They took him to the combat arena. 10 genetically engineered predators were released. Each one had 6 limbs. Each had armored skin. Each could tear through a battle drone. Elias had nothing. The gates opened. The predators charged. Elias did not run. I assumed he had accepted death. That conclusion was comforting. Then the first predator reached him. Elias moved. Not quickly. Wrongly. His body twisted at an angle no healthy creature should survive. The predator missed. Elias struck its throat. Once. The creature collapsed. The second attacked. Elias broke its foreleg. The third. Its jaw. The fourth. Its spine. 5 seconds. 10 predators. 9 dead. 1 remained. It backed away. The entire arena became silent. The creature was engineered without fear, yet it refused to approach. Elias looked at it. Then he stepped backward. He gave it a path to escape. I understood his behavior immediately. He was showing dominance. That was what our species would have done. But the predator ran. Elias did not chase it. He simply watched. That was my next mistake. I believed he had spared it. He hadn't. He had noticed something we had not. The predator was carrying a tracking parasite. Elias had seen it. He wanted it to escape. The creature reached the outer corridor. 3 seconds later, alarm screamed. The parasite had transmitted the location of the Imperial flagship to the human fleet. My blood turned cold. Elias had not been fighting for survival. He had been sending a message. And somewhere beyond our sensors, something had answered. The flagship shook. Once. Then again. The Emperor stood from his throne. Every officer looked toward the ceiling. I looked at Elias. He was smiling again. This time I knew why. Not because he was afraid. Because he finally knew he was not alone. And that was when the first human warship appeared behind our fleet. The first human warship appeared behind our fleet. Then another. Then hundreds. Our sensors failed trying to count them. I stared at the tactical display. Humanity had not brought an army. It had brought an extinction event. The Emperor ordered every weapon aimed at the human ships. I expected Elias to panic. He did not. He simply watched the display. That was when I made another mistake. I believed he was confident because his rescuers had arrived. But Elias was not watching the fleet. He was watching the Emperor. The Emperor noticed. "What are you?" he asked. Elias said nothing. The flagship shook again. A human transmission entered every Imperial channel. No threat. No demand. Only coordinates. One location. Earth. I understood then. The humans were not attacking us. They were giving us a choice. The Emperor chose war. Thousands of Imperial ships opened fire. The stars disappeared beneath weapons fire. Human vessels vanished. For 3 seconds, I felt relief. Then the vanished ships returned. Not damaged. Closer. They had jumped through our formation. Impossible. Our ships had surrounded the entire region with interdiction fields. Nothing could jump inside them. Nothing except the humans. The Empire's greatest weapon became useless. Our fleet began collapsing. Elias remained beside me. He looked almost bored. I hated that expression. I assumed he was enjoying our destruction. I was wrong. He was listening. Not with his ears. With something deeper. The flagship's emergency lights flickered. Elias suddenly turned toward the wall. "Too late," he whispered. I did not understand. Then the hull opened. Not from an explosion. From pressure. Something massive had struck the ship from outside. The Emperor's guards rushed toward Elias. Elias moved first. He grabbed one guard. The guard weighed 3 times his mass. Elias threw him across the chamber. The others fired. Elias stepped into the gunfire. I watched pulse energy strike his body. Once. Twice. 7 times. He fell. For one beautiful second, I believed it was over. Then his fingers moved. He stood. His uniform was burning. His skin was torn, but his eyes had changed. They were no longer human. They were empty. Cold. Ancient. The Emperor stepped backward. What are you? Elias finally answered. I told you. His voice was quiet. You captured what survived. The chamber went silent. Then Elias pressed his hand against his chest. Something beneath his ribs began moving. I heard a sound. Not a heartbeat. A mechanical rhythm. Slow. Perfect. Impossible. My instruments screamed. His biological structure was changing. Bones were rebuilding. Organs were rearranging. Neural pathways were multiplying. The human body was not healing. It was adapting. Every injury we had inflicted had taught it something. Every weapon had become a lesson. Every attempt to kill him had made the next attempt less effective. And suddenly I understood the pattern. Humans did not become stronger because they survived. They survived because becoming stronger was automatic. The Emperor ordered the entire ship to self-destruct. I thought Elias would escape. Instead, he walked toward the Emperor. The Emperor raised his weapon. Elias stopped. For the first time, I saw hesitation in his face. Not fear. Pain. He looked at the Emperor and said, You destroyed my world. The Emperor laughed. You were one colony. Elias looked down. No. He touched the floor. We were hiding. The flagship lights died. Every human ship stopped firing. The Imperial fleet stopped too. Something appeared on every screen. A recording. Earth. Not the Earth we knew. A second Earth. Hidden inside a dimensional shell. Cities covered its surface. Billions of humans watched the Empire. But behind them stood something else. Thousands of enormous structures. Weapons. Ships. Machines. Things our science had no names for. My body became cold. The Empire had believed humanity was young, weak, divided, primitive. It had never occurred to us that humanity might have been pretending. Elias looked at me. You studied us. I cannot answer. You thought we were afraid of you. I finally understood his smile. He had been afraid. But not of us. He had been afraid we would discover the truth. The Emperor ordered one final attack. Nothing happened. Every Imperial weapon became inactive. Our targeting systems were gone. Our engines were frozen. Our communications belonged to the humans. Then a human transmission entered the bridge. A single sentence. Look outside. I turned toward the observation glass. The stars were gone. Thousands of human ships surrounded us. But behind them was something larger. A structure the size of a moon. Then another. And another. They were not warships. They were gates. Millions of gates. Connecting to millions of worlds. I understood the final horror. Humanity had not been trapped inside the Empire. The Empire had been trapped inside humanity's reach. The Emperor dropped his weapon. Elias walked past him. I followed. Not because I was ordered to, because I needed to know what he truly was. We reached the escape corridor. Elias stopped before a window. For the first time, I saw sadness in his face. What happened to the humans on Kharon-9? I asked. He did not answer immediately. Then he said, They died. I looked at him. Then who are you? He stared at the stars. And finally gave me the answer that destroyed everything I believed. I was the last one who remembered how to be human. I did not understand. Not until the humans opened the gates. Something passed through them. Thousands of human ships. Millions. Then billions. Not soldiers. Not machines. People. Families. Children. Survivors. They had been waiting beyond the Empire's borders for centuries. The invasion was never coming. The humans were coming home. Elias looked at me one final time. You called us monsters. I lowered my head. We were wrong. He shook his head. No. His eyes became strangely gentle. You were wrong about what a monster looks like. Then he walked away. I watched humanity disappear through the gates. And I finally understood why the Empire had feared one human. Not because Elias Vane was the strongest human. Not because he was the most dangerous. He was simply the first human who had stopped pretending. We believed humans survived because they were fragile creatures that refused to die. We were wrong. They survived because somewhere inside every human was something the galaxy had forgotten. The ability to become something new when death gave them no other choice. And the most terrifying discovery was this. Elias was not humanity's ultimate weapon. He was humanity's warning. Because the next time we met a human who smiled while bleeding, we would know exactly what it meant. He had already survived us. And now he was learning how to survive everything else. If you enjoyed this epic HFY Sci-Fi story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more incredible humanity versus galaxy stories. Your support helps us bring more cinematic HFY stories to life.